Chapter 51 Shield and Sword Shield. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although he kept cursing Amon in his heart, Rummel's facial expression did not reveal this at all. He wanted to be as kind as possible. Amon pinched his monocle and chuckled. That little guy Yen Jin fought with you, right? What do you think of her? Rummel was stunned. She is yours. Well, I am her half-brother. Amon replied, half-brother. Rummel chewed on this word and said with a hint of apology, seemingly sincerely. Sorry, I didn't know she was your sister. It doesn't matter, she is indeed a little impulsive. What I'm asking is what you think of her strength. Very strong, probably no worse than the Ice Cube martial arts genius from class 1 of the 3rd grade. Rummel praised. Bing Cube, you mean Binglan, right? She has already lost to Yen Jin in Yen Jin's promotion test. Amon said flatly. What? Did she lose with Ice Cube? Rummel had a look of astonishment on his face. Binglan's talent is obvious to all and he is recognized as a genius, but he was defeated by a seemingly younger child. This is really surprising. Rummel did not doubt the authenticity of Amon's words. There must be bystanders in the promotion assessment, and you can find out with a little inquiry. Me, Yen Jin, Lei Yin, well, they are Yen Jin's younger brother, the blue-haired kid who bought you a drink, and Vidal. What do you think of this combination? Amon had a faint look on his face. Smile. At this point, Rummel also understood Amon's purpose, and he wanted to invite himself to join their team. The respect on his face gradually faded, and the slightly sarcastic smile that had been suppressed began to reappear. You want me to join your team? Amon pushed up the monocle on his right eye and replied. I have the intention, but I'm not sure. I can't make a promise that you will definitely come with us, and I can't guarantee that you can stand on that stage with us. Because those who can walk with me are not necessarily the best, only the most suitable. This is a two-way selection process, and what I can guarantee is that my team will definitely win the selection. As for whether you can stay in my team, it depends on outside interference and your own performance. He didn't promise too much. For people who are sensible and experienced enough, promises that are too generous may seem untrustworthy. Rummel returned to his previous look of being in need of a beating. Both his movements and demeanor were full of indescribable sarcasm. Then why should I choose you? Brady and the others at least knew they would give me enough benefits when they invited me. The corners of Amon's mouth raised slightly. Because of victory. I will definitely win the trials, and then the Soul Master competition. My goal is to win the competition. I think such an honor is attractive enough to you. Vidal told me about your situation. I don't need you to sacrifice yourself for the team. You can get the most suitable soul ring in your mind. Rummel's eyes slightly condensed. If that's the case, I don't understand why you still invite me to specialize in defense. If I can be easily targeted, my value on the field will be just that. Amon adjusted his monocle with a smile on his face. Very self-aware. At this moment, Rummel felt how others felt when they looked at him. His fists became hard. But what I need is not your value on the field. Maybe your value off the field, or your future value, is greater than you expected. Rummel held up his chin and said, You want me to work for you? It's not appropriate, but it can be said. Of course, this choice is also two-way and not mandatory. You can leave at any time. Sounds good. Rummel narrowed his eyes. Freedom is relative. You have the freedom to leave at any time, and I also have the freedom to abandon you at any time. Amon reminded softly. Indeed, I'll think about it again. Rummel did not give an answer. Amon nodded, as it should be, but before you finish thinking about it, do you want to have a fight with me first? Shit, this guy is trying to deal with me in every possible way. Rummel had this idea in his mind and said with a smile. That's not necessary. The result is obvious. I can't beat you. When he thought of Amon's devilish behavior just now, he felt a little frightened. I don't use mental skills. Really? Rummel's eyes lit up. He was somewhat interested in Amon's team. he was also a little worried that Amon would underestimate him because of what happened just now, so he thought about getting it back during the battle. Of course, it was not about regaining the field. He knew that his attack power could not be said to be none, it could only be said to be slightly greater than 0, it was impossible to defeat the opponent, but he just wanted to remain undefeated and let Amon experience his invincible defense. Really? Amon nodded with a smile. Okay, let's do it here. Rommel showed his martial spirit, and the index finger and middle finger of his right hand came together to form a sword-like shape. A rectangular light curtain formed in front of him, completely protecting his direction. This is my martial spirit, barrier. It is the martial spirit that is best at defending. Rommel said with some pride. Amon stretched out his index finger and thumb like a pistol. Boom! An air bullet exploded on the barrier, but there was no fluctuation at all. Not bad. Amon nodded, affirming Rommel's defense. Rommel was also startled. The attack just now was silent. He didn't notice it until it was blocked in front of his martial soul and exploded. He looked at Amon with a little more fear in his eyes. Originally, Rommel was planning to mock Amon if he couldn't break his defense, but now he changed his mind. He remembered that his grandmother reminded him that dogs that bite don't bark. Whether it was Amon's hidden mental influence or this silent attack, it was in line with Grandma's definition of not barking. However, Rommel couldn't help but say firmly. Of course, as long as it's not a mental attack, this level of damage can only be said to be a trivial matter. Really? Amon outlined a smile. He stretched out his left hand and activated the soul bone skill. The light gray soul power spread out, forming a shield exactly the same as Rommel's, but the color was slightly different. What? You are? Rommel's eyes widened, and he was stunned. Amon stretched out his right hand again, and his soul power turned into a long sword. Rommel stared blankly at Amon's shield and sword configuration, and then stared blankly at his empty palm, and couldn't help but burst out a swear word. Shit! Amon held the shield and hit Rommel's barrier, and was repelled by the recoil force. Then he used the shield to resist the barrier, slowly exerting force, pushing Rommel back. It seems that your barrier can effectively deal with fast attacks, and absorb part of the force into recoil. But it cannot counterattack against the slowly applied force, and it will be transmitted to the main body. Rommel's expression was even more surprised, as if he had seen a ghost. It was the first time he met someone who could figure out the characteristics of his martial spirit so quickly. Amon swung the sword and slashed forward, but of course he failed to break the barrier. Before Rommel could say it's useless, he saw the straight blade of the sword suddenly bend and stab from above. The tip of the sword scraped across his face, leaving a trace of blood. Rommel took a step back and covered the blood on his face. He didn't care about the wound on his face, and looked at Amon with a bit of excitement and expectation. Chapter 52 Blackmail. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Amon put away his sword and shield and pushed his monocle. How? Rommel was silent for a moment, and said with some thought, Are you demonstrating to me the direction of my soul ring selection? It seems that I am not too stupid. Amon smiled. For the first time, Rommel felt that he still needed to improve in angering others. Then what kind of soul beast do you think can bring me soul skills similar to yours? Rommel did not go into the details of what Amon's martial soul was and why it did not appear. He was only concerned about how to do it as Amon demonstrated. He originally wanted to obtain an offensive soul skill to make up for his shortcomings and enhance his own single combat power, but Amon showed him a way that was both offensive and defensive, and also had growth potential. Whether it was the defense of the shield or the attack of the sword, it could grow with the growth of his martial soul. This is not a free answer. Amon said calmly. Okay, I'll join your team. Rommel didn't use joining the team as a bargaining chip to trade with Amon in exchange for his help in obtaining such spirit rings, because he knew that as long as he joined, Amon would help even if he didn't say it, otherwise the other party would not need to demonstrate it to him. You can't be considered a member of the team now, you can only be said to be one of my favorite candidates. Amon shook his head. Rommel suddenly had the urge to turn against me. I have already agreed, and you said you still want to consider it? It was obviously you who took the initiative to find me. Amon's last sentence made him endure this impulse. As for what spirit beast to hunt, maybe you can ask Yanjin. Amon turned and left. Yanjin, she knows the answer. Rummel felt a toothache when he thought about dealing with that red-haired kid who was like a powder keg again. Lei Yin walked on the street, and chased in the direction where Yanjin and Rummel left by constantly asking passers-by. But he still lost them. At this moment, he was standing in a small alley, staring blankly at the road ahead blocked by the wall. He scratched his head and turned back. Just as he walked out of the alley, a man suddenly lay on the ground a few meters ahead and wailed. Ouch, my leg. Lei Yin ignored it. He was not a nosy person. The short and thin young man who fell to the ground saw Lei Yin walking around, and rolled on the ground twice with his body sideways, rolling to Lei Yin's feet. Ouch, my leg. Don't run, you hit me, you must be responsible. The young man grabbed Lei Yin's trouser leg and shouted loudly, glancing at him coldly. Lei Yin's eyes became dangerous. He had seen this kind of blackmail method when he lived in the West Street of Shuanya City. Although he moved away from that chaotic area later, he and Yan Jin had dealt with Ma Wen's men a lot, so he was naturally not a good baby. His gentleness and kindness were never given to people who had malice towards him. You said I hit you. Then where did you hurt? Lei Yin asked softly. My leg, calf. The blackmailing youth held his right leg in pain. Lei Yin's mouth twitched, because the man just held his left leg. So unprofessional. Right leg. Okay, I'll compensate you. Lei Yin nodded. The youth was a little surprised. It was the first time he encountered such a situation. Wouldn't most people first argue that they didn't do it? Could this kid be a fool? Before he could wonder for too long, a sharp pain came from his right calf, and he let out a heart-wrenching scream. He opened his eyes and saw that his right calf was obviously deformed. Lei Yin stepped on his calf and broke it. Here, this is compensation. Lei Yin threw down a copper coin and said softly. After a pause, he continued to ask. Are you injured anywhere else? The youth did not answer. His lips were pale, and his eyes were terrified. 3 tall, shirtless, and ferocious men surrounded him, staring at Lei Yin fiercely. The leader looked at the miserable state of the blackmailing youth and felt dignified. However, he still said with a stiff face. You are the one who hurt my brother. Well, sorry, I have already compensated him. How about you check again? See where else he is injured. Lei Yin kindly reminded. Without waiting for the leader to answer, the young man lying on the ground sat up and shouted. No, I'm fine, there is no injury. Shut up. The leader glared at him fiercely, and then looked at Lei Yin. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you are a soul master. This is Beatty City. You should be a student, right? Wait for me, I will go to the city lord's mansion to complain, and I will go to the academy to complain about you. Lei Yin didn't waste time talking to him, and directly put his hand on his arm. Accompanied by a burst of electric sound, the leader of the blackmailing gang twitched and fell to the ground. The other 2 turned around and wanted to escape, but before they ran a few steps, they fell in a flash of lightning. Noticing the occasional glances from passers-by, Lei Yin dragged the 4 of them one by one into a small alley. He slapped the leader to wake him up roughly, and with silvery white currents jumping from his fingertips, Lei Yin pointed at his forehead and said. Next, I'll ask you questions, and you answer them. Don't play tricks. Feeling the current just a few inches away from his forehead, the leader's hair stood on end, and he nodded cautiously. Okay. Who ordered you here? That the leader of the gangsters trembled and said. No one ordered us to come here. We are watching you, The leader of the gangsters wailed. Lei Yin put his hand on his shoulder, and the lightning flashed in his hand. Think it over before answering. I know the beliefs of people like you very well. When you meet someone you can't afford to offend, you will beg for mercy first, instead of continuing your original plan to blackmail people. You know I'm a soul master. When I saw his appearance, I was already scared. Lei Yin pointed at the young man who fell to the ground and pretended to be injured at the beginning. After a slight pause, he continued. But you didn't back down, which is a bit suspicious. What gives you the courage to blackmail a soul master who is not easy to talk to? The leader smiled with difficulty. No, really not, You are waiting for someone. Waiting for the person who ordered you. It should be the city guards, or the teachers of the academy, who have jurisdiction over me, right? Lei Yin interrupted. The leader's pupils shrank, and he said awkwardly, you worry too much, we really just want to extort money. What a pity, there is nothing I want to hear. The thunder light was bright, and the screams of the gangsters mixed with the sound of thunder and spread out. Lei Yin did not stay for long, climbed over the wall and left the alley from the other side. In less than 2 minutes, a team of guards hurriedly arrived. The captain leading the team was still a low-level soul master. When they arrived, they saw only 4 charred bodies in the alley. Captain, there are no signs of fire burning around, and it must be a soul master who killed them. A guard checked the scene and shouted. Shut up and clean up the bodies for me quickly. The captain of the guard said coldly. Okay, sir. The newly joined guard replied obediently. He turned around, pinched his eye sockets, and immediately started to move the bodies that others were a little taboo, appearing very active. The captain of the guard looked very unhappy. He gave a few instructions to an older guard and left in a hurry. Chapter 53 Behind the Scenes. You are listening at NovelFlow.audio. In a magnificent hotel in the southern district of Beatty City, a young man with blonde hair, blue eyes, handsome face and gorgeous clothes was holding a glass of light red fruit wine and leaning on the back of the chair. He was holding the wine glass in his right hand, and his left hand was naturally placed on the armrest of the chair, looking calmly ahead. Holmes, did you mess up? In front of him, the guard captain responsible for handling the bodies of the Blackmail gang looked a little gloomy. In terms of the result, it is true, but it is not my fault. That kid is simply a desperado. It only took a few minutes from the beginning of the operation to the time I arrived at the scene, but in the end all I saw were the bodies of the gangsters. According to the laws of the Northland province, the city guard does have the right to adjudicate on such matters. If I catch him at the scene and both parties are arguing, I can also invite them both to the Public Security Bureau in the name of mediating the dispute. But in this situation, if I want to move him, I have to name him a suspect. These are 2 completely different things. The former just makes him get entangled in trivial matters and has no time to practice. At most, it makes him extremely annoyed, but the latter situation is an unending hatred. I don't want to be regarded as the enemy of life and death by a powerful soul master. The young man tapped the wooden handrail with his index finger and asked. Can't we just let him cooperate with the investigation? Guard Captain Holmes shook his head. The law favors the soul master. He is just cooperating with the investigation. He can refuse unless I directly point the finger at him. The young man was silent for a moment and said tentatively. Then just treat him as a suspect and arrest him. Holmes looked at him with an idiot look. I said, I don't want to fight to the death with a powerful soul master, and the price you gave me is not worth it. Feeling a little annoyed by his gaze, the young man said with a trace of anger in his tone. Then how do I explain this to Cousin Brady? I promised with all my heart that I would cause trouble for them. That's your business. Holmes shrugged. Is this the way you approach things? Holmes said coldly. Abbott, if you have any dissatisfaction, let Brady come and say it himself. I am not your subordinate. Also, a word of advice, don't take it for granted that the people you are dealing with will play by your rules. For that kind of desperado, directly using the most primitive means of violence is what they like and are best at. After saying that, Holmes stood up and left the room. The city lord of the North City is not a local feudal noble, but an official directly appointed by the Tiendo royal family. To a certain extent, it plays the role of controlling the northern nobles and preventing noble rebellion. The city guard is an armed force directly subordinate to the city lord, and the nobles cannot intervene at will without sufficient reasons. Therefore, Holmes does not need to worry too much about the feelings of these nobles, not to mention that Brady and Abbott are only heirs and not real lords. Let's go. Holmes calmly ordered the 2 men guarding the door. Yes, sir. The young guard unconsciously tapped the upper and lower edges of his eye sockets with his index finger and thumb, then immediately put them down. After they left, the sound of broken wine glasses was heard in the private room. although the school also provides dormitories, most noble students either rent or purchase residences outside the school. Vidal purchased a house in Beatty City, and the area was quite large. Amon, Yanjin, and Lei Yin also stayed at his house temporarily. After Lei Yin returned, he told Amon what happened. "It's a small thing, don't take it to heart." After hearing this, Amon said nonchalantly, "Maybe Brady has made some moves. He is still using Vidal as his imaginary enemy and wants to weaken Vidal's prestige by suppressing us. If you really get entangled with those gangsters, you will be in trouble only when the city guard comes, because once you enter the public security management office with them, it's not that simple to come out smoothly. At that time, it will be a competition of connections and backgrounds, which are the areas where the nobles are best at." As for Yan Jin's teacher Walter, since he didn't make any big announcement about accepting Yan Jin as his disciple, and there wasn't even a hint of news coming out, it means that he deliberately blocked the news and didn't want too many people to know about it for the time being. He will not intervene until the critical moment. There seems to be no need to hide things like accepting a disciple. Is this another test? Lei Yin scratched his chin and guessed. Walter should have other plans. This has nothing to do with us. Your soul power level is a bit low. The best thing you should do now is to hurry up and improve it. Amon reminded. Yes, I understand, Mr. Amon. Lei Yin nodded. In the spacious reception hall of the City Lord's mansion, City Lord Cubero sat on the main seat, leaning against the back of his chair and dozing off. In front of him, Guard Captain Holmes respectfully reported the situation. Sir Cubero, I have followed your request and rejected Brady and others' request to use the power of the city guard to target certain students in Northland College. Cubero's face was expressionless and his eyes were a little hollow. He said calmly. The city guard itself doesn't serve them, right? This. Holmes said hesitantly with cold sweat streaming down his forehead. I think it's just a small matter, so I didn't refuse it before. Okay, you don't have to explain. Cubero's calm voice sounded. Don't you think the nobles in the north are too tacit? Tacit? Holmes was puzzled. Cubero continued. Yes, the Northland College is a good example. The nobles controlled the selection rights of the Soul Master competition, forcing talented students to rely on their wings. They tacitly cut off the channels for many outstanding students to be loyal to the royal family, causing a large number of talents to be lost. You say, is this my dereliction of duty? Holmes remained silent. These were not things he could comment on. Cubero laughed. Why do I say so much to you? Okay, go down, remember your duties, you are serving me and the royal family of the Tiendo Empire. Yes. Holmes respectfully left the city lord's mansion. After he left, Cubero's already stiff body seemed even more sluggish, and his originally empty eyes completely lost their luster. His entire body suddenly turned into invisible silk threads that scattered in all directions. These silk threads slithered like little snakes, and finally gathered in the hands of a figure wearing a black cloak deeper in the mansion. The silk threads also made a little halo and disappeared. The figure wearing a cloak whispered to himself in a slightly old voice. The tacit understanding of the nobles is only when they reach a consensus on the distribution of interests. If the original distribution of interests is accidentally broken, then before the opinions are reunited, they will be a group of scattered sand. Chapter 54 Compensation Expenses. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The disappearance of a gang of gangsters in Beatty City is like dropping a stone on a wide lake, causing an insignificant ripple and then calming down. Brady's side seems to have died down. There is no further action, and Amon has no intention of counterattack. This is meaningless, of course. This is also related to the fact that the number of meetings between the two parties is quite limited. Amon bought a small house without Yan Jin and Lei Yin's knowledge, and he stayed in the house for a long time to practice. The clone goes to school instead of the main body, spends time in the library, borrows a large number of books every day, and returns them the next day. Lei Yin is practicing hard at the mimicry training ground. Walter asked Chu Yoji to give the three of them access to all mimicry training grounds in the academy and bear the related expenses. Vidal also changed from his normal state, no longer keen on socializing, and no longer competing with Brady for those outstanding students. The two sides had no points of conflict for the time being, and there were naturally fewer conflicts. The only one still jumping up and down was Yan Jing. Although she didn't like school very much, she was present at almost every practical class, and within a few days she had competed with half of the classmates in the class. Not only that, she also set her sights on students outside the class. Almost every day, news comes out that someone was beaten by rock embers, a ring was melted by lava, or a fire broke out somewhere. At the end of the month, Zhu Yoji came to the Wuhuan main hall in Beatty City and handed the bill to Walter. "Sir Walter, this is the expense of the person you entrusted me to take care of this month. Please settle the account." Walter took the bill calmly, and when he saw the numbers on it, a look of confusion appeared on his face. "Is there an extra zero? Even if you follow my instructions and prepare a nutritious meal made of soul beast meat for them, and continue to use mimic training, there shouldn't be so many." Zhu Yoji replied respectfully, "Less than 10% is spent on food and mimicry practice, and more than 90% is spent on repairing teaching buildings, repairing flower beds and lawns, or paying medical expenses. The academy's training ground is a place for students to compete, so the students are not responsible for any damage to the arena. But if fighting occurs in other areas where the use of force is prohibited, students will need to compensate for the damage to facilities and equipment. The child named Yan Jin has destroyed a total of 13 walls in the past few days, and one building even collapsed because of it. There have been 16 fires in flower beds and lawns because of her, and a total of 21 people have been hospitalized by her." Walter's face twitched and he fell silent. He said slightly helplessly, "Okay, I understand. Sister, will it be bad if you do this?" Lei Yin asked a little worriedly. Yan Jin waved his hand casually and said with a smile, "It's okay. I want to see his attitude. 6 years ago, he thought about accepting me as his disciple, but he didn't take it as seriously as he does now. He didn't even want to take you away with him at that time. I want to see how far he can tolerate me now." Besides, as Amon said, the result was not bad. But his vague threats before were really annoying. This can be considered a small revenge. Yan Jin has always acted vigorously and resolutely. In her code of conduct, there has never been a saying that a gentleman's revenge is never too late. Amon's voice sounded in their hearts. "Yan Jin, go to the spirit hall, Walter has something to do with you." Hey, he's in a hurry, he's in a hurry." Yan Jin smirked. When Yan Jin came to Wuhuan Hall, he saw Walter holding a teacup, sitting on a lounge chair, leisurely basking in the sun, just like an ordinary rich old man. "Old man, what do you want from me?" Yan Jin asked knowingly. "Do you have anything to say about this?" Walt casually threw the bill on the coffee table to Yan Jin. After taking the bill, Yan Jin glanced at it and saw that the number on it was not much different from her estimate. "What's there to say? It's just a few fights, but I haven't lost a single time." The fact that Yan Jin emphasized that she won the fight also shows that she is very talented. She has basically accepted the fact that Walter is her teacher, but she is still a little awkward. Walter smiled and shook his head, and said kindly, "I have no intention of blaming you, nor am I against you tempering yourself in battle. It is also your freedom to choose to use force to communicate with your classmates. It's just that I want to remind you that the resources I can give you are limited. If too much is wasted in unnecessary places, it will be both my loss and your loss. Perhaps half of the compensation expenses should have been turned into gold soul coins, or something else, lying in the Space Soul Guide on your finger." The smile on Yan Jin's face gradually solidified. Seeing the change in her expression, the smile on Walter's face became even bigger, as if Yan Jin's missing smile was transferred to his face. He took a sip of tea. "Perhaps you should learn from your half-teacher and half-brother how to analyze the interests rationally. However, if you are really as rational as him, I will not accept you as a disciple." Walter pointed to the 3 small wooden boxes on the coffee table and said, "This is a medicinal material that I specially found to promote the speed of soul power. The big one is yours. The other 2 small boxes are for your elder brother and younger brother respectively, as a small favor from me to them." Okay, I get it. I won't be petty anymore. Yan Jin curled his lips, he looked at Walter, who looked gentle and kind, and whispered, "Thanks, old man." She knew that this kind of medicinal material that can promote the circulation of soul power must be very precious, which can increase the speed of cultivation. In the market, even if you have money, you may not be able to buy it. At least she has never heard of anything like it before. As your master, this is what I should do. You must work hard to practice. Don't lose too badly in the Soul Master competition 3 years later. When you meet the golden generation, you will know what a true genius is. Lose? Who do you look down on, old man? We won't lose, Amon promised. Yan Jin has strong confidence in Amon. I'm curious, why do you have so much confidence in him? Although his talent is good, it is still much worse than yours. Walter was a little confused, the body that Amon took over was older and had low soul power. After a few years of catching up, his talent in the eyes of outsiders changed from ordinary to somewhat talented. However, such talent is nothing in front of a soul fighter like Walter. Only a titled figure like Yan Jin would be valued so much by him. You will know when the time comes. Yan Jin said no more. Then I will wait and see. Walter said with a smile. Chapter 55 Slime. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Yan Jin was walking on the forest path in the academy when a young man with a purple killer haircut and a punk-style coat studded with metal rings stopped in front of her. Are you Seaweed Head? Yan Jin raised an eyebrow. I'm too busy these days and I don't have time to come to you, so you came to my door instead. Little miss, I don't mean any harm. Speaking of which, maybe we will become your companions in the future. Don't you happen to be short of a defense-type soul master? Mr. Amon invited me. Rummel said quickly before Yan Jin could attack. Oh. Amon said that, let's have a fight first. Vidal also fought with me. Fire came out of Yan Jin's hand. Wait, I admit defeat. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't have any offensive power, so in the end, I will lose. Rummel raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. TCH, it's boring. Yan Jin was not interested. What do you want from me? Mr. Amon said that your knowledge and theoretical level of soul beasts, soul rings and soul skills are very solid. Let me ask you about the hunting target for my 4th soul ring. Rummel complimented. Ah. Me. Yan Jin pointed at himself with his index finger, looking confused. Although she was happy to be praised for her solid theoretical knowledge, she still had some idea of her level. Rummel explained his situation. Well, my martial soul is a barrier. Mr. Amon showed me another way to use the barrier. He used the substantial soul power to make a sword. This inspired me. If I change the shape of my spirit and make it look like a sword, I can also gain attack power. If it can be made into a sword, it can also be made into armor. Protect yourself from all sides, not just one side. For me, this is the best soul skill. Oh, I understand. Speaking of this, Yan Jin gained confidence. She was the most familiar with changing the spirit form. Yan Jin nodded clearly, put his hands behind his back, and said seriously and solemnly. You need to hunt a slime. Slime? Rummel looked confused. What's the use of that useless soul beast? Lei Yin's and I's 2 soul rings were obtained by hunting slimes, because well, you won't understand even if I tell you the details. In short, just kill the slimes. It's because you don't understand. Rummel complained secretly in his heart. He resisted saying the offending words and asked again with some suspicion, Are you sure? Yes, I'm pretty sure. What attribute does your martial spirit have? Barrier, it should be a defensive attribute. You need to hunt down a slime with a defensive attribute. Yan Jin's little face was full of seriousness. What a fucking defensive slime. Is there a slime with this kind of attribute? The corners of Rummel's mouth twitched. He held his chin and began to seriously think about the feasibility of this idea. the most common impression given by slimes is that they can change their body shape at will, which seems to suit their own needs. But, slimes' bodies are all soft, right? Whether it's a normal water slime, a slime of other elements, or even an earth slime, won't this affect me? Is the martial soul's defense powerful? Rummel asked. Hey, you don't know much about this, right? That it's rare to be able to surpass others in terms of knowledge. Yen Jin is very dedicated. This gives her a greater sense of accomplishment than defeating a difficult opponent. I have seen a kind of slime that is all black, but once it is attacked, a layer of diamonds can form on the surface of the body. Amon calls it carbon slime, and it is a very special variant of earth-type slime. Yen Jin said confidently, she had encountered this kind of slime before, and when she was helping Lei Yin hunt for soul rings, she had burned one with one punch. Amon sat on the railing on the roof of the teaching building. He held the railing with his left hand and the lower edge of his monocle with his right hand, staring into the distance. The wind blew his robes, and the hem of his black robes flapped in the wind like a flag. TSK. Interesting. Vidal said you have any intention of disbanding the team and joining us? The corners of Amon's mouth tilted up slightly, forming a smile. Yes, classmate Amon, I am very optimistic about your team and want to make progress together with you. Aliyah came over and got close to Amon, exuding a faint fragrance. Why should I accept you? What can you bring to me? For this woman who had tested him as soon as they met and had a very realistic style of doing things, Amon did not hide it and directly asked the most critical question. Aliyah showed a sweet smile and answered with a silver bell-like voice. The Academy's teams are basically composed of nobles, and the team captains are often the heirs of great nobles. No matter how talented civilian soul masters are, there will never be more than 2 in a team. And the number of nobles in your team seems to be low. The weight of Vidal, the son of an earl, is not enough. You need to improve the number of nobles in your team so that you will not cause dissatisfaction among the school directors. If you don't want to eliminate the already confirmed civilian teammates, then you can only choose to increase the weight of the noble teammates and choose the heirs of the great nobles to join as much as possible. And I, the daughter of Marquis Fekris, although the power I can mobilize is limited, in terms of status, I am noble enough. At the end, Aliyah raised her voice slightly, seeming to be proud of her identity. After a pause, she continued. Secondly, my talent is not weak, so I won't become a burden to you in the Soul Master competition. Finally, there are many civilian Soul Masters in the team, right? They shouldn't be able to afford the cost of the best mimicry training. Let me pay for it. If anyone wants to hunt soul rings in the future, I can also hire people to provide it. Help. Amon straightened his glasses, clapped his hands, touched his palms and praised. It's a very good offer and it can save me a lot of trouble. If that's the case, what reason do I have to refuse? Welcome to join us, classmate Aliyah. Aliyah smiled and said, then, please give me more advice, Captain Amon. By the way, I heard that Marquis Fekris is a staunch supporter of the royal family, right? Amon suddenly asked a seemingly irrelevant question. Aliyah suddenly became alert, and even the smile on her face stopped slightly. Soon, she returned to normal and answered very naturally. Every noble in the north is bathed in the glory of Emperor Shuya, is grateful for his kindness, and is the most loyal and steadfast subject. Really? Amon stroked his glasses and did not continue the topic. After confirming the intention to cooperate, Aliyah said goodbye and left. She returned to her residence, took off her gorgeous aristocratic clothes, put on an ordinary black outfit, and then put a round hat on her head. Under the gaze of Amon one by one, Aliyah walked around in a large circle and came to the small door behind the Wuhun Hall. An ordinary-looking middle-aged man came out and led her into the spirit hall, the images seen by. The clones were transmitted to Amon's mind through relay transmission. He put his hand on the bottom edge of his monocle and sketched a smile. Interesting. Chapter 56 Walter's Arrangement. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Amon, Amon. Yen Jin ran to the library with a roar. Her loud voice attracted many eye rolls, but once they saw her iconic fiery red hair, the students in the library suppressed their dissatisfaction. The nickname Mad Dog has long been quietly circulated among students, but as the owner of this title, Yan Jin himself knows nothing about it. What's the matter? Amon pushed up his glasses and asked with a smile. Yan Jin scratched his head and said, "The old man said he would take me to a precious cultivation place that is very suitable for me. He said that you and Lei Yin can go there together, but the environment there may not be suitable for you. Let's go there together. I'm also very curious about a place that Contra can call a treasured place to practice." Amon does not plan to use his body to get over, but only plans to send some clones. In fact, the person he is talking to Yan Jin now is not his true body. After arriving in North City and stabilizing, his main body almost never left the house. When he walked around the outside world and handled various chores, it was a clone whose personality was close to that of his main body. Improving soul power cultivation is his most fundamental and important purpose, and everything else serves this purpose. On the appointed day, Amon and the other three came to Wuhuan Hall early. Of course, at Walter's request, they put on a certain disguise before coming here. He didn't seem to want to expose his master-disciple relationship with Yan Jin. In fact, many people were investigating Yan Jin's background during this period, but Zhu Yoji withstood the pressure from the nobles and did not reveal anything. Yu Xinxue also knew that there was a contra behind the three of them, but she didn't know who it was, and she wasn't a talkative person. "Good morning, Mr. Walter." Amon greeted Walter, who was walking towards him. "Hey, old man." Yan Jin waved his hand. Walter nodded to Amon first, and then touched Yan Jin's head. "You should learn to respect your elders." Okay, I'll study tomorrow." Yan Jin said perfunctorily. She looked at the two luxurious but unassuming carriages prepared by Walter with bright eyes. The carriage is not coated with gold foil, nor is it embellished with gems, but the entire carriage is made of the torso of a plant-type soul beast of considerable age. Although it is not the real body, the keen observation ability brought by the third soul ring decryption scholar is still there. Amon judged that the coachmen sitting in the two cars were about the same strength as Yu Xinxue. There was a high probability that they were two soul emperors. One of them was the man who opened the door for Arya at the back door of Wuhuan Hall a few days ago. Seeing Yan Jin's impatient look, Walter smiled and said softly, "Then let's set off." He said to the two people driving the carriage, "Sorry for bothering you." "It's our honor." They both replied in unison. Stepping onto the carriage, a fragrance came, which was natural and clear, with a hint of vegetation. "Tsk, what a luxury." Amon took off his glasses, wiped them with a handkerchief, and put them back on. He and Lei Yin rode in the same carriage, while Yan Jin and Walter were in another. "Mr. Amon, how long will we be gone?" Lei Yin touched the soft animal skin spread on the wooden board and asked softly. Amon shook his head. "I don't know, I will follow Walter's arrangement, but I think it won't be too long. After all, a contra's time is very precious. Walter has his own things to do, and I am surprised that he is willing to take time to arrange such a trip for Yan Jin." On the other side, Yan Jin looked around, sometimes pulling the car window, sometimes lifting the animal skin mat. "Old man, what kind of soul beast is this made of? It smells pretty good." Yan Jin twitched his nose, sniffing the smell in the carriage. Walter smiled and explained. "A plant-like soul beast called Isatis tree, when exposed to direct sunlight, will emit a scent that can enhance your awakening, and at night, it will transform into a scent that can help people sleep. This characteristic remains in the wood after it dies, so it is very popular among the upper class and is the first choice for making high-end carriages." Yan Jin suddenly asked. "Does it have a refreshing fragrance only when it is exposed to direct sunlight? What if there are continuous cloudy days? Won't you feel like sleeping when you sit on it?" Walter shook his head. "On cloudy days, in the morning, and in the evening when the sunlight is not strong, it will not have any special effect." After a while of tossing, Yan Jin lost all the freshness and became quiet. The carriage made its way along the relatively smooth road. This time, no blind thieves' gang came to block the way. Occasionally, some passing beasts were deterred by the aura of the two soul emperors and stayed away. Amon also felt a little bored after staying in a small and closed space for a long time. He supported the edge of the bed and climbed from the car window to the roof of the car. On the other side, he saw Yan Jin, who was lying on the roof of the car in a large shape and sleeping soundly, with a hint of smile in his eyes. In the distance, huge blue-gray mountains are looming, and the stretching mountains are like giant dragons crawling. In the open wilderness, green grass that is only half as high as the calf is full of life. Occasionally, large animals such as bison appear, looking at the carriage from a distance, chewing young grass in their mouths. Looking relaxed, Amon sat on the edge of the carriage, his legs hanging naturally, relaxing his mind and enjoying this rare leisure. He is just a clone, and his cultivation talent is at the same level as Yu Shaojiang's. No matter how fast he seizes the time, the results achieved are very limited. As for the hard work, let's leave it to the fully gifted body. After 2 days of travel, the mountains that were originally looming are now within reach. The peaks of Gaosong go straight into the clouds, and half of them are hidden in the clouds. Looking at the towering peaks, Yan Jin exclaimed. So big, that after arriving at the foot of the mountain, the carriage was parked on the side of the road, and a Soul Emperor stayed to look after the vehicle. Walter led the 3 people and another Soul Emperor into the mountains. As he walked, he reminded. Be careful, there are many powerful soul beasts in this meteor mountain range, some of which even I have to treat with caution and even have to retreat. Our destination this time is quite deep, so don't stay too far away from me, and you must be vigilant yourself. I may not be able to rescue you in the first time. I know. Yan Jin nodded. The Soul Emperor followed and walked at the end, guarding against possible threats from the rear. Amon stroked his monocle. The number of time clones he brought with him was not large, and he did not know where the cultivation treasure land Walter mentioned was in the mountains, so he did not spread out the time clones immediately. It was not the first time for the people present to enter the forest. Even the youngest Lei Yin had several experiences of hunting soul beasts, and knew how to save physical and soul power in the forest. In the outermost area where there were few soul beasts, there was basically nothing that could pose a threat to the group, so the speed of advancement was very fast. Chapter 57 Crater. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. After a day's progress, they climbed over one mountain after another. Lei Yin's face already showed visible fatigue, his lips were dry and his steps were sloppy. Old man, how long will it take? I'm exhausted. Yan Jin glanced at Lei Yin and shouted loudly. Her voice was full of energy, not tired at all. Almost there, just ahead. You've said this 5 or 6 times. Yan Jin curled his lips. You asked 5 or 6 times, so I had to answer 5 or 6 times. Walter smiled at the corners of his eyes. It should be here soon. Amon said, it's not far ahead. He could feel that the fire element in the surrounding air was obviously active, and the activity was a little unusual, comparable to the volcanic eruption in the Iron Heart Mountains. In the evening, the sun gradually sets and night approaches, but the place where Amon and others were, was still bright. They came to the top of a mountain peak, and in front of them was a fiery red lake. This is the crater of an active volcano. Thick lava flows below, and the rising heat carries the pungent smell of sulfur. Here we are, right here. Walter's expression remained normal. Wow, this is much more exciting than that mimicry training ground in the academy. Yan Jin whistled. Amon covered his whole body with a layer of soul power membrane, and at the same time, the time clone parasitic on Lei Yin also protected Lei Yin in the same way. Looking at Amon's substantial soul power, Walter looked surprised. Isn't this an ordinary martial arts skill of yours? Well, it's just an attached soul bone. Amon replied with a chuckle. It has been completely integrated. No wonder you dare to show it so openly. Otherwise, even I would be tempted. You have a great chance. Walter sighed, and at the same time glanced warningly at the Soul Emperor with a greedy look on his face. The accompanying Soul Emperor lowered his head and gave up any small thoughts that he shouldn't have had in the first place. Walter led them down a stone staircase to a natural platform close to the lava lake. On the edge of the platform, you could reach out and touch the lava. The platform is natural, but the stone steps clearly are not, Walter said with a smile. This is the training treasure land for fire attribute soul masters that I discovered in my early years. It is different from ordinary volcanoes. The fire element here is denser and more active, and the environment is more extreme. I didn't pay much attention to it before. It wasn't until I took Yan Jin as my disciple that I remembered that I could make use of this, so I sent someone to build such a staircase here. After listening to his words, Yan Jin suddenly felt a little at a loss. Walter treated her so well. The training site is located deep in the Meteor Mountains and is rich in fire elements. Ordinary people may be burned if they approach it. Building stairs in such a dangerous place must be a large amount of work. Old man, you. She stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. Okay, no need to say more. Now, are you ready? I can't stay with you for too long, and it's very dangerous here. You can't stay alone, so the time for practice is limited. You must do it during this time. Increase soul power to level 30. When it came to practice, Walter became serious, changed from his usual kindness, and said with a bit of coldness. I will work hard. Yan Jin nodded solemnly. Korea, I'll leave the soul ring matter to you. Walter said to the Soul Emperor on the side. Yes. Korea nodded. Regarding the selection of Yan Jin's third soul ring, Walter had already communicated with Amon, and the required soul beasts were already available in this area. Yan Jin summoned his martial spirit, stretched out his hand to test the temperature of the magma, just like testing the water temperature in a bath, and then jumped in with a pop. Her swimming skills are actually not very good, but the density of the magma is very high, so there is no need to exert any effort at all, and the body will float up naturally. Looking at Yan Jia having fun in the lava lake. Even though Walter was well informed, he couldn't help but slap his face and sighed. What a terrifying martial spirit. Northland Advanced Soul Master Academy. Rummel lay on the lawn and looked at the lake as usual. The light dimmed, and the lake seemed deeper and deeper. The Black Swan family has returned to their nest. Feeling the cool evening breeze, he spit out a piece of grass in his mouth and prepared to return to the dormitory. A woman with a beautiful face and charming eyebrows walked over, and a silver bell-like voice sounded. Good evening, Rummel. Huh? Why did you come to me? Alia, I should have clearly refused. If you can't stand being lonely at night and want a man, I recommend you to go to the Duck House on South Street. They will definitely take care of you. Comfortable. Whether it's words, actions, or demeanor, Rummel always makes people have the urge to beat him up. Alia's smile paused, then quickly recovered. If you didn't have this mouth, you might have friends. It's better to be polite to future teammates. Teammate? What do you mean? Rummel frowned. Literally. I promised Amon that I would help some members of the team obtain soul rings. You should have already decided on your fourth soul ring. I have a cousin who is also going to hunt for soul rings recently. If there is no problem, prepare yourself. Alia said with a smile. Rummel's eyes widened and he said in disbelief. You would actually give up the team you worked so hard to build? You should have experienced Amon's strength yourself. Alia replied in a low voice. Rummel scratched his chin, and the sense of déjà vu that made him want to beat him was reduced a lot. Okay, I admit that you are indeed very decisive. I need a carbon slime. Can you tell me about it? What is a carbon slime? Alia was also curious about this soul beast for the first time. Rummel described the characteristics of the carbon slime. Alia nodded. I will ask someone to help you keep an eye out. Northern City. At the entrance of the city lord's mansion, the young guard on duty put his hand down from his right eye socket and casually asked his colleague next to him. The mansion seems to be much quieter recently, and there are fewer people visiting. An older guard next to him replied. Oh, it is said that the city lord is in seclusion for cultivation, and now the city's political affairs are decided by the city guard, the tax chief, and the housekeeper. Is that so? The young guard was thoughtful. Amon's body withdrew from the cultivation and felt the speed of the soul power in his body. The flow rate was constantly decreasing and gradually tended to normal levels. Looking at the small box of medicine sent by Yan Jin, he whispered to himself. It's a pity, there are only so many. I don't know if I can exchange some more from Walter. But it seems that there is nothing to offer for the time being. He began to exchange information with the clones that could be contacted to understand what happened during the cultivation. Interesting. The city lord actually went into seclusion at this time. Chapter 58 Soul Master Yen Jin. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Yen Jin sat on the platform, her soul power kept flowing, and the rich fire element gathered around her, emitting a faint halo. Walter sat cross-legged on the steps above. These days, he personally waited by Yen Jin's side and almost never left. The soul power fluctuations on Yen Jin became more and more intense. After breaking through a certain threshold, she suddenly opened her eyes. Old man, I'm level 30. She stood up and shared the good news that made her happy. Good, good, good. Walter clapped his hands in praise. He was very satisfied with Yen Jin's talent. With the extreme training environment and the auxiliary training drugs Walter brought her, Yen Jin rose 2 levels in more than a month. Of course, this is also related to her own accumulation at level 28. Walter had a satisfied smile on his face. This training journey has reached the final stage. If we hunt another soul ring, we will be done. Yen Jin, remember the location here. I suspect there is something special under the volcano that caused such an abnormal environment. Even if it is not, in this special environment, it is easy to produce some treasures with fire attributes. When you become stronger, you can come and explore. Now, adjust your state, let's go hunt soul beasts. Korea and Amon have already selected targets for you. Okay, old man. Yen Jin nodded. Walking up the steps, she came to the camp on the top of the mountain and saw Amon. She said proudly. I will be a soul master soon. What soul beast should I hunt this time? Slime? Amon stroked his monocle and chuckled. Slime is indeed one of the options, but this time there is a better one. For your third soul skill, my suggestion is to choose the ability to adjust the temperature of the martial soul. Flame slime also has such characteristics, but it is not very obvious. The temperature range it can adjust is relatively small. I originally wanted to find the ice fire ape, but I accidentally discovered a variant of the flowing flame lizard. It can retract the flames on its body and disguise itself as a large rock lizard. It is a better option. Adjust the temperature of the martial soul, right? Yen Jin repeated, and then kept reciting in his heart to deepen this idea. According to Amon's theory, the soul master's own desire is also a factor that affects the soul skills. She has an almost blind trust in Amon, so she accepted this suggestion without much thought. After leaving a deep enough idea in her heart, she clapped her hands and said, okay, let's go hunt for soul rings. Then follow me, Korea is watching the lizard. Amon led the way in front. After walking a few kilometers, they came to a rocky wasteland. Korea was lying on a rock, staring at something in front. You are here. Seeing Yen Jin, Korea breathed a sigh of relief. Even with his cultivation as a soul emperor, he would feel tired after monitoring and tracking a soul beast for a long time. Thank you for your hard work. Walter nodded slightly. This is what I should do. Korea bowed. Is that it? Walter looked at the brown rocky ground in front of him, among which there was a long black rock that stood out a little. Walter frowned after estimating its age from its size. Its age is about 3,000 years, which exceeds the limit of obtaining the third soul ring. Amon smiled faintly. The so-called soul ring age limit is just a reference value. Due to different physical conditions, the maximum age that can be tolerated is also different. However, 3,000 years is indeed a bit high, and there is a considerable risk. Feeling that the time worm in his body still exists, Yen Jin and Amon looked at each other, and then confidently said to Walter. Teacher, it's okay, I can do it. Although he was a little worried, seeing Yen Jin's confidence, Walter did not dissuade him, but just reminded him. This is your own choice. Remember, there is no turning back. When absorbing soul rings, you can only rely on yourself, and others can't help. Yeah. Yen Jin nodded, and then walked forward. Feeling the threat, the originally black body of the flowing flame lizard suddenly brightened, and dark red lines covered the whole body. These lines became brighter, and flames ignited on its body, and it seemed that lava was flowing on its skin. It roared at the approaching people and moved back slowly and cautiously. "Korea," Walter said lightly. "Yes." Korea immediately took action. A green spear appeared in his hand. He mobilized his soul power and threw the spear at the flowing flame lizard. Under the huge gap in strength, with just one blow, the flowing flame lizard lost half of its body. It twisted in pain and blood flowed all over the ground. Big fire, that the surging magma engulfed it. The battle ended very quickly and smoothly, making Lei Yin feel unreal. Recalling the hardships and dangers of their past hunting soul rings, he couldn't help but sigh. Countless purple light spots drifted from the wreckage of the flowing flame lizard, and these light spots gathered in the air and condensed into a purple halo. Yan Jin sat cross-legged, waved his hand, and used his soul power to pull the soul ring closer to himself. The others stood quietly beside her, waiting for the result. The surging soul power flowed into her body from the martial soul. Feeling the violent and powerful energy, Walter showed worry on his face. With the secret help of Amon's clone, Yan Jin absorbed the soul ring without any trouble. Ha ha ha, it worked. She jumped up from the ground, with her hands on her hips and laughing, feeling the powerful force surging in her body. Her eyes showed an eager light, looking at Walter. "This one is too strong, skip it." "Korea, can't beat him, skip it." "Amon, a little coward, skip it." "Lei Yin, stinky brother, it's meaningless to fight, skip it." In the end, reason defeated her eager heart. She put away her fighting spirit and tried her best to calm the surging soul power in her body. Amon touched the bottom edge of his glasses, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Just now, he thought Yan Jin was going to challenge him again. To be honest, he was really no match for Yan Jin with just a clone. The clone was only more than 20 levels, a level lower than the main body, and could only use 1 or 2 soul skills. Moreover, the soul was incomplete and the mental power was weak, so the effect of deception was only 1/10 of it. That's not right. If the target is Yan Jin, it seems to still be useful. Congratulations, kid, you've taken another step forward on the road to becoming a soul master. Walter said gently. Hey, hey, hey. Yan Jin touched his head and smiled foolishly. Thank you, old man. Okay, let's go back to Beatty City. Walter said, although I really want to stay with you for a while, I'm also the Platinum Bishop of the Wuhuan Hall, and I still have a lot of government affairs to deal with. I know, old man, you've done enough for me. But I won't go back, I want to stay here to practice. Yan Jin looked towards the volcano with a firm look. It's dangerous here. Walter emphasized. It's dangerous, but I can get stronger faster here, I'm not afraid. Sister. Lei Yin opened his mouth and wanted to dissuade him, but he couldn't say it when he got to his lips. Yan Jin looked at Amon, who smiled and said. I respect your decision. He patted Yan Jin's shoulder and kept all the time worms except this time clone that replaced the original body to walk in the outside world. Walter was silent for a long time before he slowly spoke. No strong man can successfully reach the top without some hardships. Since you have this determination, I, as a master, will certainly not stop you. Every once in a while, I will ask Korea to send you some supplies. Don't let me down. Hey. Of course not. Yan Jin grinned. Then I will stay too. Lei Yin hadn't finished speaking when Amon held his head down. There is no increase in your practice here. Go back to the academy obediently. There is at least a mimicry practice site there. Watching Walter and others leave, Yan Jin suddenly spoke. Amon, you are here, right? Yes, I am. Amon's voice sounded in her mind. Even if I am so far away, can I borrow your power? Amon was silent for a moment and replied, yes, after being together for so long, Yan Jin is the person who is most familiar with and understands him the most. Some secrets that have been guessed do not need to be deliberately concealed. Terrible ability. Yan Jin murmured to himself. Chapter 59 The Target of the Fourth Soul Ring. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The time for the internal selection competition of the Northern Advanced Soul Master Academy is approaching. Amon's original body walked out of the rented house, with soul power surging around him. Feeling the power filling his body, a smile appeared on his face. He had just broken through to level 40, his normal cultivation speed was actually a bit slow, because when he was meditating, he had to endure the endless harassment of the mumbling from the depths of his soul, and it was difficult for him to really concentrate for a long time. With a thought, he controlled the scattered soul power to shrink into his body. He successfully controlled his own soul power so that it would not show outward. At the same time, all of Amon's clones also felt that an invisible shackle was broken. Regardless of the distance, regardless of whether they could contact the original body, they all had a sense of enlightenment at this moment. The original body has reached level 40. Most of Amon's clones did not practice much, hovering around level 21 or 22, because the cost-effectiveness of soul power cultivation was too low, and they would rather spend their time learning knowledge or various skills. The Amons either pinched their eye sockets or adjusted their glasses, and all made a decision at the same time: go hunt soul beasts, and use the bug of the time worm clone to absorb soul rings when the main body needs to obtain soul rings, and quickly increase the soul power. To level 30, this is the message left by the main body when splitting each time clone. It is agreed that every time the soul power level is about to break through the realm, it will not rush to advance, leaving a month for the clones to have time to level up. One by one, the Amons took action, either alone or in groups of 3 or 5, heading for the forests and mountains where soul beasts appeared. The young guard of the Northern City Guard found homes. "Captain, I want to take a 2-week leave. Something happened at home and I have to go to deal with it. Are there any difficulties? Do you need my help?" Holmes is optimistic about this young and clever guy. "Thank you for your kindness, but I can handle it myself." The young guard scratched his head and smiled innocently. In a tavern in Frostleaf City, a storyteller in a long gown pinched his eye sockets and said to the regular customers of the tavern, "I have something to tell you here. I have something to do in the next few weeks, so I will be closed for a while." The storyteller left the tavern and joined various people such as beggars, carpenter apprentices, tailor shop assistants, and coachmen, and rushed to the Shilin Mountains. In the Meteor Mountains, Yen Jin sat on the corpse of a huge wild boar. The corpse was charred black and the smell of meat was everywhere. She peeled off the charred shell with a dagger, cut a piece of cooked meat from it, sprinkled salt and cumin on it, and started to eat with the collected fruits, the fallen leaves behind. Her made a slight sound, and she turned back immediately and crossed her arm wrapped in magma in front of her to block it. This was an instinct formed by living in the forest for a long time. A figure wearing a black pointed soft hat, a classical robe, and a monocle on the right eye appeared in front of her. Yen Jin's face showed joy and surprise. "Amon, why are you here? Why, are you not welcome?" Amon touched the bottom of his glasses, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "I miss you so much." Yen Jin rushed over and gave him a big hug. Yen Jin only knew that the time worm that had been with him was a split of Amon's martial soul, containing part of his will, and he didn't know that the time worm could also transform into a human form. So when the clone appeared in front of her, she was particularly excited. Hey, I'm already level 39, and I have a hunch that I will be level 40 soon. Have I surpassed you again?" Yen Jin showed his soul power fluctuations and boasted proudly. In the past, at the Icewind Junior Soul Master Academy, after she obtained her first soul ring, her soul power level was ahead of Amon for a long time. Later, as Amon's soul was gradually completed and his cultivation talent was restored to the level it should be, his level gradually surpassed her and left her behind, which made Yen Jin feel unwilling. The suitable training environment, the supply of Walter's resources, and the constant fighting with the soul beasts in the mountains and forests made her progress very quickly, and her training speed even surpassed Amon's original body with full soul power talent. Amon smiled and did not answer. He took back the time worm in her body and said softly, "I came here for something. You find a safe place to stay. What is it? Do you need my help?" Yen Jin asked. Amon shook his head. "I can do it myself." "Okay, you pay attention to safety. By the way, the in-school selection competition is about to start. You should pay attention to the time and don't miss it. Amon reminded. I can't wait. Hee. Yan Jin said with a smile. At level 40, Amon also began to consider the hunting target of the fourth soul ring. The clones had already screened the suitable soul beasts and selected the best choice they thought, waiting for the original body to make a decision. Originally, such a major event about the future should have required a full Mongolia referendum, but many clones were too far away to be contacted, so they could only make expedient decisions. However, the final result was actually the same, because the will of Amon's original body and the will of the full Mongolia referendum were ultimately consistent. Although the personalities of the clones were different, after the opinions and views of all the clones were offset and combined, they would eventually coincide with the original body, so the symbolic significance of the all-Mongolian referendum is greater than its practical significance. It just gives each clone a sense of participation in form. After browsing the information of dozens of different soul beasts, Amon finally selected the most desired target from them, the soul-stealing ghost. The soul-stealing ghost is a soul beast that looks similar to an orangutan, covered with red hair all over its body, and looks quite strange and ominous. They have a very special ability, stealing soul skills. Each soul-stealing ghost can only steal one soul skill at the same time, and the duration is short and the randomness is large. Generally, it can only steal skills of the first or second ring. It seems difficult for them to steal those higher-level soul skills, but the scary thing is that this is a soul beast that lives in groups. Even if the probability of high-level soul skills being stolen is very low, this probability will be continuously magnified under the continuous theft of a large number of soul-stealing ghosts. If someone accidentally enters the territory of the soul-stealing ghost and is surrounded by them, all soul skills will often be stolen and they will be slaughtered. The ability of the Dementor is similar to that of the Thief Sequence 6 Fire Thief, which fully meets Amon's requirements. When the main body made the choice, the other Amons also conducted a less complete Amon referendum. They contacted all the Amons they could contact to vote. After excluding some completely chaotic fun Amons, more than 90% of the remaining serious Amons listed it as the best target. The main body of Amon shared the same views as the Amons, and the results were gratifying, which showed that the Amons were in a good mental state and very stable. Of course, it would be better if there were not so many fun Amons clamoring to kill the Deep-Sea Demon Whale King, Emperor Tian, Snow Emperor, Silver Dragon King and other unrealistic and inappropriate targets. Chapter 60 Fulfilling the Promise. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Amon's true body came to the main hall of Wuhuan in North City. Walter sat on a large chair, turned a letter over and covered it on the table, and then covered it with a pile of documents. After doing this, he looked at Amon and asked pleasantly, "Why did you come to see me?" Both of them have shouldered Yan Jin's teachings to a certain extent, and their relationship is pretty good. Amon stroked his monocle with a bit of a smile. I wonder if Mr. Walter still remembers his promise to me. Promise? Walter was stunned for a moment, then realized, are you level 40? Yes, I need a soul ring. Okay, what soul beast do you like? I will send people to find it, and then help you hunt it myself. Walter answered readily. He knew Amon's concept of soul rings and had strict and almost harsh requirements for the selection of soul beast types. This was reflected when he helped Yan Jin choose the third soul ring last time. The advantage is that it can greatly increase the possibility of obtaining the desired soul skills, but the disadvantages are also obvious. It consumes manpower and material resources, and requires a long wait. It's okay to say that at a low level, after all, the required age of the soul beast is not too high. There are a lot of them, and someone can always encounter it. However, as the required number of soul rings continues to increase, targets that meet the requirements become increasingly rare. In addition, powerful soul beasts often live in very dangerous places, and hunting in this mode will become increasingly difficult. Suitable, it can't be said that it's not good, but the price/performance ratio is too low, and even big forces cannot afford such consumption. I need a Dementor, preferably between 20,000 and 30,000 years old. Amon said. What? How many years did you say? Walter doubted his ears, because the year Amon mentioned was really amazing. 20,000 to 30,000 years. Amon repeated. Can you absorb such an old soul ring? Do you have any special skills? Walter knew that Amon would not act without aim, so he immediately thought of this. His gaze towards Amon became intense, with a hint of inquiry. Indeed, it does, but this is based on the special nature of my martial spirit and cannot be replicated. My martial soul has the ability to split, which can consume excess energy, so I can absorb soul rings that exceed the limit of my body. However, because the energy is consumed by splitting, the quality of the soul ring will decrease. Amon replied using the same rhetoric as dealing with Vidal. Walter had a bit of doubt and hesitation on his face. Seeing this, Amon smiled and explained again. You should know who I am. I have no power. If this technique could be popularized, I wouldn't mind if it spread. I would have used it to exchange benefits with you. Walter nodded. That's right. According to your pragmatic way of doing things, if it was really valuable to Wuhuan Palace, you would have exchanged it for the soul-refining grass. Soul-refining grass is the medicinal material that Walter has always provided to Yan Jin to speed up his cultivation. It is very rare and precious. Amon had also asked Walter before and expressed his willingness to purchase the soul-refining grass, but was rejected by the latter. Walter thought for a few seconds and said slowly. The information from the Wuhuan Palace does record the habitat of a group of Dementors. It is not difficult for me to kill a 30,000-year-old Dementor myself. But you should know that when we made the agreement, we did not consider this extraordinary situation. This has exceeded the value of my promise to you. Amon raised his right hand and touched the bottom edge of the monocle. Since you didn't refuse directly, Mr. Walter, it means we can still negotiate. I wonder what I need to pay to make up for the difference. Walter smiled, and then said in a serious tone. You don't need to pay anything. I just need you to give me a promise to treat Yan Jin's child well. Don't use her trust in you to do something to hurt her. Based on Walter's life experience, it can certainly be seen that Amon is a refined egoist. Amon has never concealed this, so Walter is a little worried that he will betray Yan Jin for profit in the future. Although he knew that the so-called promise was not that effective, it was still a reminder from his master. Amon chuckled. Then when we first met in the past, hurting her emotions and making her worship you as a teacher, does it count? Walter looked embarrassed and said a little unnaturally. Ahem, this naturally doesn't count. Well, that child is a bit reckless and impulsive. Sometimes she really needs others to dissuade her or make choices for her, even if it is a bit against her wishes. He waved his hand and said, Okay, when do you think it's appropriate? I'll take you to hunt for soul rings. How about 1 month later? I need time to settle down and become familiar with the current power. Amon answered. Okay, then in 1 month. After walking out of Wuhuan Hall and walking dozens of steps on the street, Amon suddenly stopped. A woman with a beautiful face and a charming figure, wearing a gorgeous purple dress and a hat with feathers of the same color, came forward. She said in a voice like a silver bell. Captain Amon, it's really not easy to meet you. In order to make his breakthrough appear more reasonable and natural, Amon pretended to practice hard. In recent times, even his clone rarely went to the college library. Is something wrong? Aliyah. Ignoring the pretense of sadness in her words, Amon asked calmly. Aliyah said softly, registration for the in-hospital selection competition has begun. Then just report according to the scheduled personnel list. Did something unexpected happen? Aliyah shook her head. No, everything is normal, it's just Lei Yin's sister. Amon smiled and said, What do you mean by Yan Jin? It doesn't matter. She will come back, and even if she is missing, there should be no impact on the results. It's just an internal selection competition. You can just find anyone as a substitute. This is natural. Under your leadership, we will definitely win, but if she does not play, I am worried that this will become an excuse for others to criticize her. There is a precedent for some teams to replace the civilian students in the team after obtaining the qualification to represent the academy in the Soul Master competition and replace them with noble children who joined later. Aliyah paused, then continued. Of course, I will try my best to prevent this from happening. The corner of Amon's mouth was raised slightly, revealing a smile. They can give it a try. No one can replace Yen Jin. After saying that, he continued to move forward, looking at Amon's retreating back. Aliyah stood there and savored these words, but in the end she still couldn't understand the meaning. After a long time, she put a smile on her face again and moved forward in the original direction. When passing by the spirit hall, she nodded slightly to Korea, who was looking out from the second-floor window.